Okay, I normally read things about politics or humor or or about poetry. Today will be a little different. I'm going to read four love poems, and uh, it's put on by my wife Barbara. Barbara's not here; she's out at the lunch. But Priscilla and Christina from this group, so I, so I have a chance to read two poems that were um, published last year, one that was published recently, and one that's been never published. Barbara. I first met Barbara when, as an officer of a technology consulting firm, I made a presentation to the firm where she worked. She struck me as being extremely sharp. When the other two people from the firm and two from mine had lunch, I made sure I sat next to her. That was the last that I saw her for 7 years. In the meantime, we sold my firm to a larger one, and I became responsible for all computer system installations for a new, much larger firm. One of the firms that we installed the log system for was at a very prestigious Wall Street firm, Morgan Stanley, and I became personally involved in the installation. About a year after the system was installed, I got a call from the person in charge of Morgan Stanley computer systems to ask me if I had never heard of a person whose resume he just received. It was the same woman that I remembered from 7 years before. I had no contact with her in all that time, but I'd asked about it when I met people from her firm, and always received good reports, and therefore I gave her a glowing reference. When I heard that she had accepted the position and started a new job, I called her to congratulate her, and she thanked me, but called me Tom. 3 months later, I was offered an executive position at Morgan Stanley and accepted it. In my first 3 months of the new position, I spent a good deal of time in San Francisco overseeing the operational takeover of a firm acquired by Morgan Stanley. In the late autumn, I was back in New York full time, and my only interaction with Barbara was in the office that related to business. On December 8th, in the late afternoon, we were forced out of our offices by a bomb scare and were mulling around in the lobby. Many moved to a nearby pub. And for the first time in 7 years, I sat at a table with Barbara. On December 28th, I told her, on December 27th, I told her that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. It took until the following May 12th for us to finally begin our total lives together. The move that took great courage, commitment, naivete, confidence, and love, because we were both leaving marriages of over 10 years. We were jeopardizing well-developing careers. We did it anyhow. That was 43 years ago. Since then, we have together raised two terrific children, had a consulting business that took us to 14 states, DC, Puerto Rico, and Mexico, taught in 10 different colleges and universities, written 10 books and contributed to encyclopedias and anthologies, written countless newspaper and magazine columns, published hundreds of poems, but active in technology and writing organization, and performed community service, and always been in love. Or McMullen, I love you. Now, then this was published in the most recent Brownstone Poets 2022 anthology. 3 marriage ceremonies. The first one, we arrived riding on the motorcycle to a justice of the peace's home on the 4th of July. 25 years later, also on the 4th of July, the ceremony was held at the Festive Hall with 60 guests and officiated by Catholic priests. The third and last was in an empty church with only the minister and 2 witnesses, the most intimate of all. 3 of them in 43 years, all very different and all with the same woman, Barbara E. McMullen. And then back to the other book, My Life in 26 Poems that the first one came from. Important people. Over the years, through no fault of my own, I've been around many important people. I have held Eleanor Roosevelt's coat. I lived Gordon MacRae's cigarette, talked baseball with Casey Stengel, talked football with Weeb Eubank, exchanged pleasantries with Pearl Bailey, bask in the presence of Lena Horne, interviewed Steve Jobs, discussed history with Arthur Schlesinger Jr., had a beer with William F. Buckley Jr., been in the room with Lauren Bacall, reminisce about my late father with ex-NYC Mayor Bob Wagner, talked writing with George Plimpton and David Halstrom, speculated about technology with Bill Gates, talked basketball and politics with Governor George Pataki, talked about all things life with Dan Berrigan. But the most important person with whom I've ever spent any time is Barbie McMullen, my wife for 43 years. Now, the reason for all that stuff that came to mind was a week ago today, I wrote a poem, My Gift Turns 80 Today, August the 2nd, 2022. My gift from God, fate, whatever you would call it, turns 80 today. She wasn't delivered to me until I was almost 39, but she was worth waiting for. We both had separate lives of our own and no inkling that we were meant to be. But it went from interest to desire to need to recognition that we must give up anything and everything to join together. And we did. That was 44 years ago, more than half our lives, a wild ride with some difficulty and much joy. Arguments, crankiness, sure, but always love. And today, I thank God for you. I thank you for your love. You are more than ever my love, my mate, my wife. Happy birthday, Barbara. I love you more than ever. And you put up with all the only love poems that I have ever written today. Thank you for your attention to my sappy poems.
That was brilliant. I love that, John.